and welcome to What's on My Mind with Fiona. I'm your host, Fiona Kane. Now, today, What's on My Mind is a court case that I watched the verdict this morning, the Tickle versus Giggle case. Yeah, a strange name. I get it. Really, really strange name. Unfortunately, the results of the case were what we expected. So, just a little bit of background for those of you who might not know about this case and what it is. Essentially, the lady by the name of now my brain's lady by the name of Sall Grover. She started an app that's called Giggle. Well, she was in the beta testing phase of the app, and the app was for women. And so it was a safe space for women, and it was just a sort of networking, chatting, and also I think there was a dating part of this app. And she made it so that it took a photo of you. I remember when I was joining it, sort of you had to take a photo of yourself while you were entering the app, and essentially it had AI decide whether or not you were a woman, and then they would actually just later on go through and just double check, because the AI was set to be like a little bit off. Just, some of us are a bit more masculine than others, and that's fine. So they set it so it's a little bit off, but then they went through and checked later to ensure that the people who were on the app were actually women, XX women. And essentially, this person who calls himself, I'm sorry, I'm going to say himself, I'm not sorry, actually, himself, Roxy Tickle, tried to get onto the app. Well, he got onto the app, and at some point, Sal has gone in, and she had so many men joining. I don't think she even remembers specifically the moment, but she just went through and she just removed all the men from the app. And essentially, he has taken her to court for this, saying that it's discriminatory, and he should be allowed to be in this women's app, which is no longer running. She spent the last 3 years or so in court. So anyway, that's what the case was. So essentially what it came down to is whether or not women in Australia are allowed to have our own spaces just with each other. And unfortunately, she lost. Now, it's not the end of the story. I think there's a couple more levels that she can take it up, and I'm quite sure from what she's been saying that she will appeal or take it to the next level, or whatever the legal terminology is. And that's actually really, really important, because this is not – it might be about an app, but it's so not about an app, because it's actually about our rights as women. It's the problem with these sorts of things is they, in legal terminology, you set precedents, and once there's precedents, all of the other court cases look back at that precedent and say, well, that's what they did there, so we're going to do the same thing, right? So it's really, really important that there are precedents that defend women's rights, and this one certainly does not. Some of the response to this, and actually when the judge, because I was watching it live on YouTube, and as soon as the judge said that people can change their sex, I was just thinking, all right, yes, right. Okay, so no reference to actual biology, no reference to reality. So as soon as he said that, I thought, oh, here we go. I also do understand that from a legal point of view, these judges, these people, their hands are tied to a certain degree, because, as I've said to you before, in 2013, our then Prime Minister, the first female Prime Minister of Australia, Julia Gillard, she removed us as a category. She removed women as a category from the Sex Discrimination Act. So we are no longer a category. It's about gender identity now, not about your actual sex. So they actually have to work within, these legal people have to work within the law and within rules and law and acts and all that sort of stuff. Legal stuff is not my forte, so I don't pretend to be accurate in the language around this. And we are not considered to be a category. Women are not an actual category. It's gender identity. And that is why I get so that's why I get so pedantic about language, and why language matters and definitions, because back when this happened in 2013, I have a vague recollection of it happening. But in 2013, I don't think some people obviously did, but many of us, I don't think we could have even foreseen this clown world we were going to be in. It's just like even a court case like this, it's so ridiculous. Like, so we just could not have seen this, that there'd be men punching on women at the Olympics and men racing against, running against women and women beating women in all sorts of races and men becoming Woman of the Year and men being included in women's pain studies and, so on and so forth. Like in 2013, who could have understood that? Probably Julia understood it. I don't know when she made that decision and she let that happen. But anyway, here we go. I'm just reading some. Responses in on X. Jennifer Gingrich says the verdict in Tickle versus Giggle is both scary and enraging. I would agree. Women in Australia have been stripped of their right to meet or associate without the presence of men if men say they can't. Does that sound like, Iran? Somewhere like that? That's what it sounds like to me. We actually are not allowed now. Women in Australia are not allowed to meet or associate with each other without the presence of men if men don't allow it. Let that sink in, because that's actually what this just upheld, this judge just upheld. So for a court to order a woman to pay compensation, oh, that's right too, she was actually ordered to pay $10,000 compensation plus up to $50,000 of his legal fees. So she's up for 60 grand, besides the fact that I think this has already cost her maybe $1 million, maybe more, a lot of money. And it will, because it's going to continue on. It's going to cost a lot more. On that note too, you can go to Sall's Twitter and there's a right up the top, there is a GoFundMe and you can click on that. Just go to her Twitter and do it there. And her Twitter, I will just check for you what it is called, just to make sure that I'm sending you to the right place. So I think it's Sall Tweets, I think, but let me just check that. For those of you who can and want to support, that's what you can do. Yeah, so her name is Sall Grover, SALLGROVER, and her handle on Twitter /X, it's called X now, is at Sall Tweets. So SALLTWEETS. So if you go there, right up the top, she's got a crowdfund. So you can go there and support her, because I think that she does actually need our support. So this person basically said for a court to order a woman to pay compensation and court costs to a man because he was banned or because he was barred from a woman's space is outrageous. And absolutely, yes, it is outrageous. I agree 100%. Now we have over here Senator Claire Chandler. She said, today's judgment in Giggle versus Tickle confirms that women in Australia have no legal rights to single-sex spaces and services. And if you're not aware of this too, there's a big case in Tasmania in the last year or so, and it was a group of lesbian women who wanted to have, I don't know, like a conference or a meeting, but they basically wanted to get together. And they also lost their case. I think they went all the way to the highest court and they lost their case. So lesbians in Australia are also, so because they're women as well, they're not allowed to meet without men if men choose to be there. And so she said today's judgment in Giggle versus Tickle confirms that women in Australia have no legal rights to single-sex spaces and services. The Sex Discrimination Act, which is supposed to protect women and girls, is now a tool to punish women trying to offer female-only spaces. This is a disgraceful, dangerous situation which reduces the rights and protections available for women and girls in our country. She is absolutely right. Therein lies the issue. And, and surprise, surprise, and we'll see it as it goes throughout the day, but basically the media, the old style media, all the sort of big TV networks, that kind of thing, they're sort of calling it something completely different. I actually will tell you what I think they're all doing what they always do. Like anything, it's the same way with Let Women Speak when Posey Parker travels around, or women. There was a women's meeting in, I think, Melbourne last week. Whenever women want to get together and speak about their rights in regards to these things, what happens is it's called an anti-trans. It's anti-trans. Everything's about anti-trans rights, and it's pro women's rights. It's not anti-trans. It's pro women. But of course, it always gets called anti-trans, and it sort of acts like there's no. It's not about women at all. It's just about women being mean to trans people. And it's not about women being mean to trans people. It's about women being allowed to have safe spaces and their own spaces. And if they, if those women choose to have trans people in their spaces and they want to, great. But if they choose not to, that is perfectly fine as well, and they shouldn't have to. They should not be told by law that they have to do it. Yeah, like I can't find it here now. I saw it before on the project, but as basically they've called it a trans rights issue when it's actually a women's rights issue. So the next one here, I think there was another one. Look, essentially, Australian women should have the right to be safe, to be in spaces with other women, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why women might want to do that. I mean, of course, first of all, they don't have to explain it. They can just do that because they want to, right? They also may want to do it because of their religion. They may want to do it because they've had some sort of history of assault or abuse or something like that, and they've got PTSD or some other traumatic thing going on. You don't know, and no one has to actually justify it. But there's a whole bunch of reasons why women want to have these sort of spaces, and that is fine. Women should be allowed to have that, and Australian women in 2024 should be able to have that. And instead, what we have to do is we have to play pretendies with grown men who should know better, and men that just get offended because they're not included. Someone actually replied to me on one of my tweets this morning. I can't remember, sorry, who the person was, but they said that something along the lines of that you'll find out exactly who a trans woman, because that's what they call themselves, a trans woman, a man who dresses like a woman, you find out exactly who they are when you say no. And that's exactly what you see, because when women say no to these people like J.K. Rowling, they get death threats and threats of every kind of disgusting thing that you could ever imagine. And so these people, in my, okay, I've said this before, but I will say it again. Clarifying again, I shouldn't have to, but I will, because, and even though I will, it won't make any difference because people will say whatever they say because that's how the world is. I have no problem with individuals living their best life and doing their thing, right? I've got no problem with that. What I do have a problem is women's safety, women's fairness, and their security, fairness, safety, dignity, their things like sports and overall women's rights. Right. What I have a problem is women's rights being eroded or taken away just to make someone feel better. That's what I have a problem with, and I also have a problem with harming children in the name of an ideology. So when I talk about this stuff, I am talking about the ideologues who attack women and the ideologues who don't believe in women being able to have safe spaces and protections and laws that protect us. So when I say they, that's who I'm referring to. I'm not referring to any transgender person who, I'm sure, from my experience, most of them probably lovely, kind people, whatever. Like I don't have a problem with the person who's just living their life and wants to get on with things. What I have a problem with is the ideologues, and these ideologues, they hate women. Now talk about Julia Gillard, who is our Prime Minister, who is the one who changed the Sex Discrimination Act to remove us. She did a speech in our parliament, a whole misogyny speech, having a go at who was at the time the opposition leader, Tony Abbott, and he also had been as an Australian Prime Minister. she had a go at him, called him misogynist, and he's so far from that. He's not a misogynist at all. And in fact, what she's brought in, this kind of removing women from the Sex Discrimination Act, has opened us up to what I would call real misogyny. And this real misogyny is this group of men, and I'm talking about this specific group, not all trans people. I'm talking about this specific group of activists and ideologues who hate us. They hate us with a passion because they wish they were us. And so they just want to destroy us. They want to be in our spaces. And it is not okay unless we absolutely affirm everything about them and invite them into our spaces and say, you're one of us. And unless and until we do that, they will fight us. They are the people that I have a problem with, and they are the people who are fighting this case. And so Julia Gillard, in her misogyny speech, which was, there's T-shirts and things, and I've got, friends who I love them dearly, but they're feminists and they're lefties, and they go and see Julia Gillard speak because it's so wonderful, and she's such a feminist icon, and they have these T-shirts with the misogyny speech. Her misogyny speech was actually to protect a guy, I think his name was Peter Slipper, who at the time, I have to say this in a legally, at the time there were allegations around him being inappropriate with some young men, or some men sexually inappropriate with some young men in Parliament House, or anyway, with young men, right? Julia Gillard needed him to stay in his job, I think he was a Speaker of the House, to save her job. So she was protecting him, who had these claims against him in regards to sexual inappropriateness with, I think, young men, right? So she used her misogyny speech, which she had, I'm sure she just had it in her top pocket, just waiting to pull out, just first chance, because she was all about, like a lot of these lefty women are, they're all about the big moments and the big speech, and um, making a name for themselves, because of the great speech they said. It's never about what they actually did. It's never about the substance of it. It's about the feeling of it, right? And she's the first female prime minister, and she said the misogyny speech and stood up against a terrible misogynist person, and so she's wonderful, and we love her. Like vomit, seriously. He wasn't misogynist. She was actually defending someone who had these awful claims against him because he was going to save her career, which ultimately wasn't saved in the end. And so she pulled out her misogyny speech at that moment, so everyone could sort of, yes, oh, wonderful, yes, you're so right, he's a misogynist. No, that's not what a misogynist looks like. If you want to know what a misogynist looks like, have a look at the stuff that J.K. Rowling gets piled on her every day. You will see what a real misogynist is. Misogynists actually hate women with a passion, and some of them want to be women, and they hate us for the fact that we are, right? So anyway, so Julia paying money to go and see her speak, and recently, it was last year, the year before or something, she was asked to define what a woman is. I think she gave about a 3-minute answer, and there was no definition. It was just all of this, that's a right-wing gotcha question. That's a gotcha question. And, inclusion, gotcha, blah, 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 blah. I never actually said what a woman is, right? So, and feminists idolize it, like, I don't understand it. I don't understand. Anyway, I think I'll just get off my whole high horse. Anyway, today is not unexpected at all, but a really sad day in Australia's history, and people need to understand this is about women's rights and women's safety. It's not an attack on trans people. I don't have a problem, though, with attacking these trans ideologues, the ones who are just really nasty, awful people. I don't care who you are. If you're nasty and awful and you're coming after women's rights, I've got a problem with you. Trans, not trans, whatever you call yourself, I've got a problem with that. So some good news, just to end with some good news, because it's good to have a little bit of good news out there in the world today. And devastating news. J-Lo and Ben, what do they call them? Benefar, part 2. It's over. Devastating. Well, a couple of narcissistic people couldn't make it work the second time around. What a surprise. Anyway, there you go. But no, I actually have some good news, and I just have it over here just to make sure I get it right. So I'm reading from James S's on X. So his name is James ESSES. And I'm referring to the puberty blocker ban that happened last week in, I think it was about a week or 2 weeks ago in the UK. So he says breaking the UK government have extended the ban on puberty blockers as well as extending it to Northern Ireland. So they must now make the ban permanent. So he's saying now they must make it permanent, so no child is ever left sterilised and irreversibly harmed on these shores again. So really good news that things are going in the right direction in the UK, protecting children, and we should be doing the same thing here, not harming children in the name of, well, we're so wonderful, aren't we? Great, because we're so inclusive and all that carry on. We have to protect children, not harm them. Anyway, I think that will be me for today. Look, I just got my full support behind Sall Grover. I stand with Sall, and please go to Sall Tweets, at Sall Tweets on Twitter/X, and click on at the top if you can or are able to support her financially, because this is not just about her app. This is actually about women and about women's rights in Australia. And unfortunately, it's this. We have to be able to force a change with with the Sex Discrimination Act. I don't quite know how that works. Legal people who are far more better than me at that sort of stuff are going to be the ones behind that. People like Catherine Deves, who is supporting. Is it Catherine Deves or Catherine Deves Morgan? I can't remember, but who is, I think, representing Sal. So I will check that. So I'm Catherine Deves Morgan. So she's actually, I think, one of the lawyers representing Sal. People like that will know more about that than me. But obviously, there's something we need to change these things in these official documents, like the Sex Discrimination Acts and things like that, so that in future this can't happen again. And yeah, shame on Julia Gillard for what you've done for Australian women's rights, or to just try and protect, all this carry on that you did to just give yourself a legacy so people would think you're wonderful. And the stupid thing is that people do think you're wonderful. I don't even anyway. All right. Anyway, good news is UK, they're starting to do things to protect children. Bad thing is in Australia, we don't protect women's rights and women's safe spaces, and women don't have a right to meet together without the presence of men if men don't approve of it. So there you go. And that's 2024. We're going so far forward. We're achieving so much. 2024. Yes. Let's just take away more women's rights. That's what's happening. Anyway, I hope you have a good week, and I'm really looking forward to hearing that Sal is going to whatever the next legal step is in this. I don't know what it's called, but anyway, I hope that I see that happening soon, and I really hope that, if we can get enough support behind her, that we can actually change these things. And like I said before, this is not the app is kind of, it's obviously very relevant to Sal, but it's kind of irrelevant in the big picture. The big picture, it's not about the app, it's about what it represents and about the precedents. And the problem is when we change language, when we change words, when we start changing what science is, and when we start changing the truth about biology, and when we start saying things and doing things to be kind, this is what happens. We lose our rights. So this is a fight for women's rights in Australia. Don't be mistaken and think it's anything else. It is absolutely a fight for women's rights in Australia. Anyway, I do hope you have a great week. Please like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. This is also in video on Rumble and on YouTube if you want to share it or comment there. Anyway, see you later. Bye.